from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Stepping into the dicamba debate, a comprehensive look at the technology in mid-season. China opens rice markets to U.S. growers. In agribusiness, weather markets and yield impacts.
You've got, the haves and the have-nots, and the haves could have one heck of a crop.
Machinery Pete tracking the most recent equipment values at auction prices, and meet a top producer of tomorrow from Southwest Oklahoma.
Ag Day, brought to you by the dependable, longest-lasting Chevy Silverado.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. While hundreds of suspected cases of dicamba drift have come from the Mid-South, it now appears farmers in the upper Midwest are scouting and seeing possible problems stemming from the herbicide as well. The Minnesota Department of Agriculture telling Ag Day that it is investigating about 36 complaints from farmers about the weed killer drifting into their fields. Those fields were not planted with dicamba-tolerant beans. Now, in comparison, the state investigated 3 cases of possible dicamba drift in all of 2016. Testing results last year showed not one positive case for dicamba. MDA says no state restrictions are currently being discussed at this time. As we've reported, Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee have all tightened their restrictions on dicamba use. The chemistry offers farmers a new tool to combat glyphosate-resistant weeds. And for the first time this year, the EPA allowed farmers to spray it over the top of soybeans. As Tyne Morgan reports, that decision has frustrated some farmers, but it has others singing its praise.
Yeah, these beans are starting to flower.
Strolling through shin-high soybeans,
I'm very happy so far here.
Illinois farmer Ed Vitko has a refreshing view.
We sprayed approximately 1,200 acres of soybeans with dicamba.
And he says those 1,200 acres are the cleanest he's seen in years.
I am very ecstatic with the weed control that I've gotten.
Vitko sprayed BASF's new dicamba formulation called Ingenia.
I had 0 issues with dicamba injury, 0.
But 100 miles south, Jeremy Wolf has a different view. He started seeing injury from dicamba showing up in early June.
We were the only ones spraying beans that day. They'd had a load of dicamba, went out earlier that day, multiple loads in between us, but we still got it.
The verdict? Tank contamination.
It was consistent across all the fields we sprayed, so it was pretty clear.
And Wolf says from early June through mid-July, the issue only heated up. It's possible damage from dicamba showing up in fields across Illinois.
But this is something that's not new for us in Illinois. We've actually seen dicamba symptoms virtually every year we've used the product in this state, which is now close to 50 years.
Weed specialist Aaron Hager says he's had more calls and questions about dicamba in the last 30 days than ever before.
I think there's a lot of just general ignorance about dicamba. Not a lot of people that are using it now have used this product for many, many years.
A lot of people are looking for it because they've never looked for it before.
Ferry says some soybean leaves are curling this year due to weather stress, not dicamba. But when it's injury from dicamba, it can show up anywhere from 7 to 21 days after exposure.
So if you do the math right now, if we're standing here about the middle of July, if we're going to wrap up in 10 days, if it takes, let's say, 14 to 21 days, you're probably looking at early to mid part of August before you really have a good idea statewide how extensive this problem is going to be.
He says there's multiple reasons behind the damage this year.
We're seeing things that are probably encompassing virtually all off-target factors. Those would include physical drift, those would include movement by vapors, whether it be through volatility, maybe it also could occur and be moving through this process of the inversion conditions.
And Mother Nature hasn't helped in 2017.
Temperature is a big effect on volatility. The higher the temperature, typically the more volatility that you would see. Combine that with low relative humidity, that's a really good recipe for volatility.
It's not just Mother Nature. Another culprit, farmers using older formulations of dicamba.
We've had a lot of instances so far where a lot of the investigations clearly would point to movement that was a dicamba product applied in corn. There are certainly some instances where more than likely, the wrong type of product was used. Maybe somebody decided, well, some of these older formulations are lower priced, I'm going to save a little bit more money. Many of these older formulations are very, very volatile relative to these new formulations. So everybody has to become involved with this if they're going to spray effectively and have dicamba technology in the future.
But Hager says even the new dicamba products aren't accident-proof.
But low volatility and no volatility are distinctly different. And when you have products that are low volatility and you couple that with an extremely sensitive species like soybean, typically, again, it's not a matter of if you're going to see symptoms of exposure, It's typically how extensive and what the magnitude is going to be.
And the extent of the damage won't be known until harvest.
You have no idea what the dose of exposure was. You have no idea what the growth stage was when that exposure took place.
However, in Ferry's experience, damage is minimal on beans still in the vegetative stage.
But I've seen a lot of beans that I think it's going to have no effect on, other than maybe the nerves of the farmer who saw the cupping.
Yield loss or not, the new dicamba products are at the mercy of a 2-year conditional license. And Hager says if growers don't follow the label, the new technology could have a very short life.
All right, thanks, Tyne. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue announcing the USDA has reached a final agreement with China to allow U.S. rice growers to begin exporting to that country for the first time. Perdue says the agreement has been in the works for more than a decade and represents, quote, an exceptional opportunity with potential for growth in the future. China is the world's largest producer and consumer of rice. Now, since 2013, it has also been the largest importer, with importers reaching nearly 5 million tons last year. When the new rice protocol is fully implemented, the U.S. rice industry will have access to China. USA Rice Federation expecting the first shipments to be to China before the end of the year. Now to farm country, as Mike Hoffman walks us through today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Dan Allred of Corydon, Iowa, tweeted out a photo of oat harvest. He's pleased with the yield of 75 bushels an acre. Last Monday's crop progress report showed 18% of the Iowa oat crop was harvested. It's usually 30% by now. And we also heard from the folks at East Eden Farms. They're on their second cutting of hay in Saratoga County, New York. Meanwhile, NASS says 75% of the range and pasture land in New York State is good to excellent. And let's take a look at the estimated rainfall last week, and you can see the areas that got a fair amount and others didn't get much at all. We'll show you that a little close up and have your forecast for the week coming up. But first, here are some hometown temps.
This is Machinery Pete, inviting you to check out my new website, machinerypete.com. Offering farmers tens of thousands of used equipment listings to search, let Machinery Pete help you find and value your next piece of used equipment.
When we come back, we'll continue on the topic of weather and what it can mean to production this year, and in turn, prices. Plus,
stay tuned, folks. Coming up, my latest market report on used farm machinery values.
And we're headed to Oklahoma to meet a young producer working hard to build on his family's legacy. Weather continues to be front and center as traders work to calculate the U.S. crop. Tyne Morgan has more in today's analysis.
Here now with Matt Bennett of Bennett Consulting. Matt, we knew it was going to be all about the weather right now with these markets, and that's exactly what we're seeing. But it just seems like the areas that don't need the rain are the ones that are getting it right now.
Absolutely. You know, I took a little drive with my family this past weekend over to Cedar Point, Ohio. Saw a lot of really wet farm ground north of Indianapolis all the way over to Cedar Point. You know, a lot of water standing, a lot of off-color crops. Corn was very variable. It looked like an ocean out there with the waviness. Yeah. A little bit of a concern for me. I think that those guys are kind of behind the 8 ball. I feel for them because it's really tough to come back from that kind of a weather situation.
But Illinois isn't untouched. I mean, it's not impressive everywhere in Illinois either.
Absolutely not. The really interesting thing with Illinois is you've got, you know, the haves and the have-nots, and the haves could have one heck of a crop. You know, we could have a really good crop in places. We can't lose sight of the fact that we had a ton of weather issues this spring that did not lay the proper foundation to have a huge crop. So even the really good areas are probably not going to be like 2014 type yields, but as far as the really bad areas, you're probably looking at, you know, maybe even a 2012 type situation because they had a really bad spring and then they just have not been able to catch the rain.
Yeah, I've heard some agronomists that said, you know, we started off shaving the top end yield off just because of the rough start that we had. So based on that, I mean, what about Iowa? How good do you think is Iowa?
It just depends where you're at in Iowa. You get in northwestern Iowa, obviously, they're dry. They've had some issues. A lot of people say northeastern Iowa could be really, really good. Southwestern Iowa's not too bad, but bottom line, you're looking at a lot of variability. They need to get some rain here soon.
So based on all of that variability, what national yield are you going with right now?
Personally, I'm in the low 160s at this point.
You
I don't think that I can get to 165 at this point unless we have major, just really good weather from here on forward. And then as far as soybeans go, it's too early to tell.
Yeah, but in corn, that would put some fireworks in the market.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. All right, Matt Bennett with Bennett Consulting. Stay with us. We have much more Ag Day when we come back.
For advice on the best way to be profitable on your farm, contact Matt at 217-273-1133.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, if we look at rainfall over the past week, that drought area of the northern plains, there were some spots that did get some rain showers.
Yeah, there were. Some of the thunderstorms complexes formed east of them, but there were some, obviously, that did get areas. You can see most of the Missouri Valley, southern plains didn't get a whole lot, though. You can see the southeast and the mid-Atlantic got those afternoon variety showers and thunderstorms occasionally, so they ended up with decent amounts. Most of the west, not a drop in those areas. So let's go into the northern plains, western portions of the Corn Belt. You can see the pockets. One pocket there, south central Nebraska, a little pocket north central Nebraska, and then you can see along the South Dakota, North Dakota border, there was a complex that gave some pretty decent amounts. And that track was kind of through northeast Iowa, southern Minnesota, southwestern Wisconsin into parts of Illinois, Indiana, and ending as it moved over Ohio. That's where those complexes occurred from this previous Saturday to just this past Friday. Now, taking a look at the jet stream, you can see as we head into this week, another trough bringing a cool shot of air to the Great Lakes, northeastern plains into the northeast. That will move on by. It'll try to warm up, but another little shot kind of comes into the northern Great Lakes by Wednesday. And here's where things, it's not like the pattern changes dramatically, but it does look like as we head through next weekend and into the following week, you'll notice how we try to see this ridge come east, but then it really gets shoved back to the west, and it looks like a big cool down could occur about a week from now into the northern plains. We'll watch that. This could change a little bit, but that is kind of shoving the ridge back to the west a little bit more than we've seen over the past month or so. So temperatures this week, I'm going above normal for most of the central southern plains into the southeast. Above normal for most of the Dakotas, especially North Dakota into south central portions of Canada and throughout the west. Near normal here is because of those afternoon variety showers and thunderstorms. Kind of keeps temperatures down on average. Below normal then for the Great Lakes, Pennsylvania, Delaware, northeastward into eastern Canada. Precipitation this week above normal from about St. Louis all the way through the southeast, also the eastern lakes into the northeast, and also the far southwest. But then you get from North Dakota to the west, and you get from eastern Kansas southward, probably below normal. 30-day outlook for temperatures above normal from the southeast through the central plains, central Mississippi Valley into the northwest, below normal for the southwest and the far northeast. Precipitation then above normal in the southeast and southwest, below normal in the northern plains, near normal for most of the Corn Belt. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Moorcroft, Wyoming, first of all, very warm thunderstorm in a few spots, high of 95. Ottumwa, Iowa, mostly sunny and not as hot, high of 82. And finally, Florence, South Carolina, hot and humid, afternoon storms around, high of 93.
Machinery Pete is digging into the data for a look at equipment values and trends. He joins us next, and later this Oklahoma wheat grower and cattleman is now an award winner. We'll tell you why on In the Country.
Ag Day, brought to you by Top Third Ag Marketing. Farmer first with a plan for every market. Machinery Pete is brought to you by John Deere. Where can you find the most comprehensive inventory of John Deere certified pre-owned tractors, combines, and sprayers? MachineFinder.com. Sometimes the best new addition to your fleet isn't new.
We've heard a lot about the sputtering farm economy. Well, this morning, Machinery Pete shows us how used equipment prices are holding up. Greg?
Well, 6 years ago, I created a new quarterly report, called it my Machinery Pete Used Values Index, and it's just based on all the auction prices I've been compiling for 27 years now. Now, we just released our second quarter 2017 report. You can see a picture of it here, very simple graph, my 1 to 10 rating scale. You can see second quarter, just a little bit of a drop, down from my 6.7 rating in the first quarter to 6.6 in the second quarter. And this graph encapsulates all types of used farm machinery. Now, a little perspective here, second quarter on the calendar year from April through June has always been the softest time of year for auction prices. In fact, from 2005 through 2015, 11 calendar years in a row. Second quarter overall index fell, and it fell by an average of 0.4 points. So this year in 2017 to only fall 0.1 point, to me, is further proof of the footing we found with used farm equipment values. And actually, if you look at this graph, go back to the first quarter of 2016. Actually, the same exact rating, 6.6, that we're at right now. So that's 18 months of holding used farm machinery values. And this is why I say, for the rest of the year, if you're able, it's still a wonderful opportunity to upgrade into late model equipment. So give your local dealer a call.
All right, when we come back, building a future in Oklahoma.
Are you a game changer? Know someone who is? Chevron is searching for those people that have made an impact on the industry. Share your nominee at chevrondello.com/gamechangers. Dello, let's go further. In the country, brought to you by Kubota. Check out Kubota's RTV-X 1140, a rugged utility vehicle with seating for 4. Stop by your local dealer today or visit Kubota.com.
Each year, our partners at Top Producer Magazine award a young producer under the age of 35 the Tomorrow's Top Producer Horizon Award. Now this year, it goes to Cody Goodnight of Chattanooga, Oklahoma. Betsy Gibbon has his story.
Swaying wheat waits to be cut as the hum of Cody Goodnight's combine rolls through these Oklahoma fields. For him, harvest is not routine, it's tradition. This family has worked these soils for 5 generations.
It's just in our blood. We can't get rid of it. It's just something we really, really enjoy.
The Chattanooga producer who holds the reins of Goodnight Farms is busy working with his crew. Nearby, a man who farmed before him.
To never get away from it. I'm not in charge anymore sort of situation, but I sure enjoy observing.
Just needs a little sunshine.
It's Cody's father, John, who pioneered the farm's foray into wheat, cotton, sesame, sorghum, soybeans, and grasslands for their cattle. One of the first in the community to no-till. Curious about conserving moisture and maintaining his soil during these dusty Oklahoma seasons. Lessons Cody inherited, passed on from his father's passion.
Not only has he followed my footsteps, he's exceeded it.
We try not to just coast. We want to always be improving, and I learned that from him.
But the real work lies in never leaving the land bare, and cover crops are helping.
And one of the reasons we grow it is to help break up compaction.
Goodnight plants most row crops, except for cotton, in 15-inch rows.
The reason we do 15 is for narrower rows to get the ground covered sooner, more shade in the ground.
And they use stripper heads during wheat harvest, taking grain and leaving the straw standing.
Another big benefit is just shade and wind and water erosion protection for us in no-till versus having the straw all cut and left bare.
While Cody has grown these visions, he had a nice jump start. His dad, John, developed a certified seed wheat business, which has been a staple of the operation for more than 25 years. Annually, 40,000 bushels of seed sold to 50 growers. The number fluctuates depending on the market and demand.
It certainly gave us a niche in the market. Our seed wheat price doesn't fluctuate as much as the normal commodity prices. And it just gives us a premium for our wheat.
Goodnight saw how his dad added value in wheat and wanted to near success within the livestock sector. He evolved and changed the cow-calf operation to AIing heifers with high-end genetics.
Well, I wanted to do the same thing with heifers. I wanted to raise seed stock heifers for other people to purchase from me.
And it's in these fields at harvest the family and crew take time every night to give thanks.
You just remember what you're fighting for.
Parking the machinery, a moment to slow down.
You know, if all you're ever doing is working and slaving away from daylight till dark, what's the point?
To share a homemade meal and be together.
So we take time to just enjoy ourselves and stop and smell the roses, you might say.
Because farming through Oklahoma's unpredictable weather is not for the faint of heart. They're grateful for each year the wheat dances into harvest, bringing promise of a future and planting seeds for the next generation. Reporting in Chattanooga, Oklahoma, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
Now, congrats to Cody and his family, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your week with us. For Mike Hoffman, Tyne Morgan, and Betsy Gibbon, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.
Ag Day is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.